The Chargers backups lost a tough game against the Broncos, but now their playoff path is set, and they will be taking on the New England Patriots in round one.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as a host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day as part of the #1 sports podcast network. And David, this was always the most likely results, but with a loss in week 18, now we know it'll be Droegemeier versus Justin Herbert in the wild card round.
Yes, it will, and it will be in prime time on Sunday Night Football, and the Chargers are 5-0 in prime time this year. Hopefully that extends to 6-0 after Sunday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, better, I think, than the matchup that they would have had against the Jaguars, but everything kind of went according to plan. The Chargers told you this is what they were okay with, and now they're going to have to take out a really good team in round one. And we'll talk about, what this offense looked like today without Justin Herbert, which was really, really tough to watch, but still coming away very encouraged by this Chargers defense, who I thought performed exceptionally well, especially with a lot of backups in the game. And then we'll get a little bit more into this Patriots matchup, including the Chargers catching a major, major break as far as when that game is getting played. But today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. David, the Chargers basically waved the white flag in week 18 when they decided they were going to rest Justin Herbert. And I do think that was the right decision. I think there's going to be ways to second guess it because obviously now if the Chargers had won this game, they would have had a rematch with the Broncos next week, which I think you'd feel good about, having beat them 2 times already this season. But they needed the extra rest when they were allowed it, and this is how it played out. And the Chargers offense, obviously, like I said, was really, really tough to watch. But the Chargers defense kept them in it in this game, and I mean, at least kept it close enough to where you're going into the second half thinking, oh my God, they might, with Trey Lance, find a way to pull this one off.
Yeah, as Tony Jefferson said, they thought this was going to be sweet. It definitely was not sweet for the Denver Broncos. The Chargers defense did not make anything easy for them on Sunday. They made Bo Nix look really bad, honestly. Like, they had pressure on him all day. They made him overthrow, made him have to run out of the pocket a lot just to get, sustain some offensive drives. And they kept him completely out of the end zone. You didn't score against the Chargers backups with Derwin James out, with Khalil Mack out, with Tuli Pelotu out, with Deion Henley out. Most of their major star defenders were out of this football game, and this Chargers defense dominated that offense all day.
Yeah, and I think, realistically, I think the Broncos probably come out of that game feeling worse than the Chargers do, right?
How could you not?
Yeah, and the thing is, they, almost lost to a third-string quarterback in their last matchup when they played against the Chiefs. But this was obviously not the same situation because offensively, the Chargers had their backup offensive line, right? They had their backup kind of skill position players outside of Keenan Allen, who we're going to talk about. But I think also, if you were trying to make the MVP case for Justin Herbert, this game would be a huge feather in that cap, because I think you honestly kind of saw in this game against a really, really good defense, and it was a tough ask for Trey Lance against that team. But you see kind of just how valuable Justin Herbert is to this team and, what it looks like without him.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a major difference. Justin Herbert's a magician. And I'll give Trey Lance some credit too. He escaped some sacks himself and was able to get away and extend a couple of plays. But Justin Herbert has the ability to not only escape those sacks but make the throws down the field and be accurate. And that's one of the huge major differences, obviously, between Trey and Justin. But obviously Justin's all world. Justin has single-handedly kept this team in plenty of games and is one of the sole reasons why they won 11 games and clinched a playoff spot, because he played unbelievable football this year under constant duress and got hit and dropped many times and didn't matter. Came back fighting, showed his perseverance, and showed his true God-given ability to win football games for the Chargers this year.
And as far as Trey Lance goes, obviously a tough situation, right? Where he was not going to get the Chargers' best arsenal.
Yeah, he got thrown to
him.
the wolves a little bit.
He did. And, obviously it was a huge chance for him to kind of just show the improvements that he made. And, the pick six, not totally his fault, should have been caught by Keandre Lambert-Smith. He also gets blindsided off, Nick DeVito just torching Austin Deculus. Please come back, Jamari Sawyer.
Please,
and just
please.
forcing a fumble that set up points for this Broncos offense that really struggled, man. Like it was a tough watch. A lot of their, points were set up by the bad parts of the Chargers offense, not the good parts of the Broncos offense for sure. But I also think, it's hard to take away too much from this game offensively, especially when you're looking at, them averaging 3.1 yards per play. The Chargers, 7 for 20 on third down. Like it was a brutal watch. And then you also have to wonder, how much are the Chargers potentially saving some things, because they could play this Broncos team again. If they win, like the playoff path is set. If you beat the Patriots, now you get the Broncos in round 2, and I still think you have to feel really good about that matchup if it gets there. But also, this offense was completely overmatched, and, shout out to the defense. But if there was one thing that the Chargers offense did well, it was making Keenan Allen some money. This was something we talked about this week, all the incentives that Keenan Allen had going into it, David, and he ends up $1 million richer after the performance on Sunday.
And richly deserved for Keenan Allen. Obviously signed a deal with a lot of incentives that were attached to it. And, obviously Keenan's been in the league for a very, very long time. He's made a very nice living for himself. But he came in here and was a major part of this offense. He's back like he never left, just being an automatic machine on third down, being that security safety blanket that just knows how to get open. He's like a fine wine. He's just getting better with age. He just has not had any kind of drop off. It's just been that similar type of production, and he just jumped back in where he left off. It was great to watch. Was invaluable to this Chargers offense this year, helping keep the Chargers offense on the field, sustain drives, and score some points, which is obviously what they needed to do. But big time congratulations to Keenan Allen for going out there, getting that money. And obviously hats off to the Chargers for making sure that one of their captains, one of their treasured veterans, got taken care of.
Yeah, I was talking with Kenyon Barner in the postcast squad show, and he basically said, I have seen basically the call come in from whoever to basically hold someone out to not get their incentives. Because that money all comes basically directly out of the owner's pocket. So you could tell very, very early in this game that the Chargers were going to get Keenan Allen his bonuses.
I love it.
First pass play, that's a little screen out to him. He gets a catch. He had 5 catches by halftime and all the yards necessary, because he got the 9 yards to get him to 750 yards is what got him $250,000. And then he had 7 catches. He only needed 6 of them to get that $750,000 bonus. Now, the bad news is he might owe Trey Lance a car going back to their last interaction, because he basically told you, hey, dinner's on me if you are able to get me these bonuses.
He can afford it.
Yeah. No, I think he will feel fine about that. Many dinners that you can buy with $1 million, but very good organizationally, obviously, to take care of your players. And then, just finishing up a really solid season. Like there was many questions about whether the Chargers would bring back Keenan Allen, and also whether the Chargers should bring back Keenan Allen, right? Because of some of the redundancies with him and Lyle McConkey. Sure. I think it's pretty easy to see now that we have the season over now, regular season wise, that it was a great decision. He has a season with 81 catches for 777 yards. Lucky 4 touchdowns on the year. That's about as good as it gets. Already kind of surpassed what he was able to do last year in Chicago. Really kind of revived his career to a certain extent. But he's just great. And it was really also funny that it felt like Jim Harbaugh might actually take it away from him at one point, because that was one of the wildest challenges that I've ever seen in a game. Jim Harbaugh challenging that spot, because I'm like, oh my God, he's going to challenge a spot. They're going to see that ball clearly hit the ground, and they're going to take that catch right out of Keenan's wallet. And then he's going to be back to 5 catches, and we'll see what happens after that. I'm sure they would have got it to him anyways, but I could not believe that they did that. And then it ends up getting the first down. He ends up being successful on that challenge, because if you're going to call it a catch, you got to call him down where he was touched.
Yeah.
So that was really funny. But it's always interesting in week 18 when you get these storylines that are incentive based, and in a game where the Chargers offense couldn't get anything right. they did right by number 13, and I'm excited to see what he's able to do with one more playoff ride with this team at least. But we do need to talk about the defensive depth that the Chargers show with Jesse Minter still owning Bo Nix, and also the emergence of second-year player Justin Aboigbe, who went from an afterthought to a dominant presence this year. We're going to get into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Kicking off the year, feeling good is the goal, right? And honestly, hydration is the easiest win. When I stay on top of it, my energy, focus, and mood all level up. But let's be real, plain water doesn't always cut it, especially when you're grinding through long days, hitting the gym, or just trying to stay consistent with your health goals. That's where DripDrop comes in. Doctor-developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work better, think clearer focus, better energy, elevated mood, even that fresh skin glow. I've been using DripDrop. I got mine. Very, very excited about it, and now it's part of my daily routine, and it's honestly a game changer. I love that it uses precise ratios of electrolytes and glucose for rapid absorption, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half of the sugar of the leading sports drinks, and they have flexible subscription options, so you're never stuck without it, whether you're hitting the gym, juggling work, or just staying consistent with your goals, or chasing around an almost 2-year-old. Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to DripDrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. Stock up now at DripDrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. I also need to tell you guys about Prize Picks, because whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge, but with Prize Picks, it's always good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action now almost every night, the action never slows down, and Prize Picks lets you stay in control. It is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections. No drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less and play your way. Getting started is super quick and easy. The app is really easy to navigate as well, and it's made watching games more engaging, especially when following those individual player performances. Obviously, I dabble a lot in football, but now we don't have the projections out for the wild card weekend yet, so I'm going to be turning it to basketball this week, and it's as easy as this. You can go with Jalen Brunson to have more than or less than 29.5 points, and combine that with Kawhi Leonard to have more than or less than 28.5 points. All you have to do, download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Dave, we have more to get into, but I do want to talk about just this Chargers defense, which I think really proved what they've shown us really early in this Jim Harbaugh regime, which is just that no matter who they have out there, they're going to maximize that unit. And I felt that way again on Sunday because, man, it did seem like they had Bo Nix in a blender for a lot of that game. I thought they played pretty well against the run as well. RJ Harvey had been red hot before this matchup. Did struggle at times to contain Bo Nix. You know, he got around his feet a little bit. But, man, you're holding that Broncos offense who's has to win, right? Just a desperate game to 4.1 yards per play, getting off the field on third downs for most of the day as well. And I think it just shows you, man, this Chargers defense is really, really deep.
Really, really deep, really, really well coached, and and a lot of talent too. I mean, you got to see some guys that you don't really normally get to see, like a Marlo Wax, who a guy that really stood out in the preseason, earned his way onto the roster, and has been waiting patiently for his chance to go out there, and he shined. Like, he made a huge stop on fourth down where he shot the gap and dropped the ball carrier for a big fourth down stop. That was awesome. That was a huge play, and he was all over the football field. I mean, it was fantastic just to see this Chargers defense, no matter who is out there, get pressure on the quarterback, put a roof over the coverage, and really kind of stifle anything that the Broncos were trying to do. Like, RJ Harvey ran it 15 times for 28 yards, 1.9 yards per carry. That is insanity. Bo Nix had 141 yards passing on the game, and this was a game that the Broncos had to win. They had their starters out there. They were trying very much so to win the number 1 seed, to make sure that they locked that in and guaranteed it. So I know people out there saying, oh, it's been a vanilla offense and they did what they, I don't agree with any of that. This is a game that they were absolutely trying to win, and the Chargers defense made it exceptionally difficult for them to do so.
Yeah, I think like the only point to that would just be like, maybe they are more aggressive if they didn't have so much confidence in their defense just being able to stop the Chargers offense that they were putting out there on Sunday for sure. But like at the same time, Bo Nix had 5 more passing yards than Trey Lance did in this game, and we know the issues this Chargers offense was going to be working with going into this game. So it was really good to watch the Chargers still be able to kind of hold the line as far as what they expect from this defense, no matter who's out there, and to hold them to 5 of 15 on third down, to hold them to 240 total yards in offense in a game.
0 of 3 in the red zone as well.
Would not let them in. A lot of bend but don't break, constantly getting off the field when the Chargers offense put them in bad positions, and also Chargers being able to sack him 4 times in a game where they don't have Tuli Tuipulotu and they don't have Khalil Mack out there. So, that a great showing by this defense, and Jesse Minter again, and his potential head coach resume, which I don't love.
Stop doing so well.
Yeah, but I do also want to shout out Justin Aboigbe, because he was probably the defensive star in this game, coming up with 2 sacks to give him 6 on the season from the interior, which is just crazy. He was a breakout player that really no one could see coming. And honestly, like, one of the biggest signs of development for this Jim Harbaugh regime is Justin Aboigbe and what he's been able to do in year 2 after playing just 26 defensive snaps, David. He notches sacks 5 and 6 in this game, and I think that's fitting.
What an unbelievable turnaround for Justin Aboigbe, for being basically a redshirt freshman in his first year in the NFL, barely getting to see the field, getting sent home with some pretty clear instructions. Hey, I need you to put on some weight so that I can put you on the inside and let you go be part of this rotation. He heeded that advice. He came in and he did exactly what they wanted him to do, and that preparation obviously showed itself all throughout the year as he turned himself into probably the best interior pass rusher on the team for the Chargers. So Justin Aboigbe, a huge shout out to you. Big time respect for being able to show your growth from year 1 to year 2 and really trying to make yourself an invaluable part of this Chargers defensive line rotation.
Well, and to your point about the interior pass rush, I mean, Justin Aboigbe has 6 sacks. The next closest interior defensive lineman is Deshaun Hand with 1.5. So I think that tells the story right there. I mean, he has been a presence that they've needed. Really good when quarterbacks have tried to, escape and run up through the middle. He's been there and been sure tackling when he is there. Also has made some big plays on special teams. But like a 4th round pick that could have easily been discarded and written off. And we've seen that happen way too many times, especially under the Tom Telesco era, right? Where now
no
it's like,
development,
okay,
right?
It gives you faith. Like it just, it gives you faith for a Kyle Kennard. It gives you even faith in someone like a Junior Colson that maybe he can find it in year 3, right?
Yeah.
Just because of what we've been able to see this coaching staff do. But the only real downside, I think, for the Chargers defense was Dante Jackson getting injured in this game. Honestly, like really the only player that was dressed and playing in this game that I kind of had a problem with playing. Like the Chargers obviously lost Nico Reed before the game and had to put him on IR, so that left them a little bit shorthanded in this game. But if it was just a combination of Dean Leonard, Tarheeb Still, Cam Hart, and Benjamin St. Juste, I would have been good with it. To see him kind of limp off the field was really hard to watch in a game that isn't going to matter and you're most likely going to lose. But at least good news is that Jim Harbaugh said he was able to come back in an emergency capacity if they needed him to, but would not commit to him playing this week against the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, that along with Keenan Allen just being in the game a little bit too long for my liking, sure. I didn't really like that either. I mean,
I think that was a Keandre Lambert-Smith getting hurt thing.
It probably was. But it's like, man, like what? Send Q out there. Like, don't send Keenan. I mean,
sure.
It's just like, I digress.
Yeah.
But seeing Dante Jackson get banged up was the absolute worst case scenario, right? I mean, you just get a little bit of deja vu with the Mike Williams situation, like, in a situation where this game means nothing to the Chargers. Like, they know they're already kind of resigned to their fate. They just wanted to get into this game healthy and get out as healthy as possible. And so it is very good news, obviously, that they did say that he would have been able to come back in if needed. And I'm glad they held him out. Obviously, that was 100% the right decision. I would have been fine if he didn't play at all. He was one of the best corners on this Chargers football team and just one of the best zone corners in the NFL this year, just by and large. Just look at the stats.
Yeah, he's had a huge kind of resurgent season, and I mean, he's just straight up been one of the Chargers' best players. Like, you can't sit guys like Khalil Mack and Derwin James and Deion Henley and Tuli Tuipulotu and not act like this is a guy in the same air as those guys as far as what his impact has been for your defense this season, in my opinion. So, yeah, it looks like he will be okay. Almost had to do a candle circle around a walking boot to see him come back onto the sideline without a walking boot. Is definitely a blessing.
Hallelujah.
Because of just how banged up some of these guys have been, and how many ankles and walking boots we've had to endure in the year 2025. But the regular season is now over, and the Chargers get the Patriots in round 1. We're going to get deeper into that one, including why the Chargers made out in a big-time way with when they scheduled this game and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. This episode is sponsored by Betterhelp. The new year doesn't require a new you, maybe just a less burdened you. We all carry things that weigh us down or hold us back, and therapy can help you identify what those things are by offering an unbiased perspective to better understand your relationships, motivations, and emotions. That's where Betterhelp comes in, making it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist who can help you work through what's holding you back. Maybe it's fear, pressure, perfection, or doubt that's been weighing you down. I know I deal with a lot of this, especially putting the show out for you guys every day, just because we care so much about the content that we put out. We're constantly stressing about it, but therapy is one thing I've had to help me unburden that a little bit, and it makes all the difference in the world. And all BetterHelp therapists are fully licensed in the U.S. and work according to a strict code of conduct. And if you're not happy with your match, you can switch to a different therapist at any time with over 30,000 therapists to choose from. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. The NFL season and the NFL playoffs are now here, and there's nothing like being at the game. The crowd noise, the energy, and cheering alongside other fans. Watching at home is great, but being in the stadium hits different, and the frustrating part has always been getting tickets, waiting in queues, dealing with logins, and watching prices change right at checkout. And that's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans, and it's the hack for unlocking amazing NFL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. If you're going to go to a playoff game and you want to brave the elements and go see this game on Sunday Night Football against the New England Patriots, you want to know that you're getting the best price, and you can do that with the Game Time guarantee, knowing if you find a ticket somewhere else, they will refund you 110% of the difference in the same row and seat section as the one that you have right now. Make sure you're doing that, and also make sure you're not getting all those surprise fees at checkout where you think you're getting a great deal just to get to checkout and be supremely disappointed. If you want to make your playoff experience the best way possible, go to Game Time and know that they are backed by the Game Time guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, David, well, now we know the Chargers are getting the Patriots in round 1, and we also know that by resting Justin Herbert, this is an outcome that they were okay with, right? And I think it's kind of easy to understand why this was the preferred matchup as opposed to potentially getting someone like the Jacksonville Jaguars as a 6 versus 3 matchup, or whatever the other outcomes could have been depending on Sunday's game. And going into Sunday, there was just so much in the air that nothing was nailed down. There was nothing that could guarantee themselves.
There's no team that had their seed locked in. None of them.
Yeah, which is just insane, and I think tells you the kind of season that, the NFL had this year. But what you knew by doing this is if everything kind of held up and all the teams you thought were going to win, you were probably going to get the New England Patriots, and that's exactly what happened. And now the Chargers are going to get a team that ranks top 5 in offense, top 5 in defense, and they're going to have to go beat a good team to get Justin Herbert his first playoff win.
Yeah, they absolutely will. I mean, it is a very, very good football team. Obviously, they won 14 games this year. But also, take a look at the opponents that they played. I mean, yeah, they're top 5 in offense, top 5 in defense, but I think that's a little inflated when you look at the teams that they've played on their schedule. And yeah, you can only play the teams that you're lined up with, obviously. But, I mean, you can't take the context of that out as well. I mean, to me, this is a football team with the Patriots that don't really get after the passer very well. They don't turn the ball over, or they don't get a lot of turnovers. They don't get a lot of interceptions. They don't get a lot of fumbles. So from a defensive perspective, considering the other teams that they could have got and the defenses that they have, this is definitely a situation that I would say is more favorable than the others.
Yeah, and you look at, who the Patriots have played, and you just kind of think back to the 2024 Chargers, whose defense dominated all the bad teams that they played against, and then the good offenses they went against, they struggled at times. And when they were faced with adversity against good teams, they struggled. And I think the other thing here is just you know the outcome, or what happened when you played like the Jaguars, right? You know how you fared against other teams, even the Texans or whoever you want to put up there, right? You don't know with the Drake May-led Patriots because, as Justin Herbert found out, you can have a great season and get to the playoffs and get smacked in the face and see how much your resolve can handle it then, right? Like, that is just what the NFL is. So you're getting the inexperienced quarterback and a team that hasn't faced a ton of adversity so far this year. And, like, it's going to be a really tough game. They're going to have to play a team that won 14 games this season. And, like, I don't think Chargers fans should underestimate this team by any means, but matchup-wise, there are reasons to like the matchup for the Chargers compared to who else they could have played. Guess what? They weren't going to be able to play the Browns this week. They were going to get a tough matchup no matter who, how the playoffs ended up working out. And even if they had played everyone and won the game with the Texans winning this week, they couldn't have got themselves the Steelers, which is really the only team that you would have been like, please give me the Steelers.
Yeah.
We know how that game plays out because we saw it earlier this season. So I think the one huge, gigantic thing about this game that we now know is when they are playing, and I think that makes a huge difference because it came out later on Sunday that the Chargers will be playing on Sunday Night Football, 5 p.m. prime time, which is a time slot that they've absolutely thrived in this year.
They certainly have, to the tune of 5 wins and 0 losses. So the Chargers love it when the lights are on bright, when everybody is watching them. Justin Herbert may not like it, but the Chargers as an organization as a whole, they definitely like it. They see the challenge. They want to put that drip on in front of the entire world, and they go out there and they ball out. And that's what they've done so far this year. And they've also obviously struggled a lot in the early East Coast windows that they've played on their schedule. They've really been sluggish coming out of the blocks. So not having to worry about that aspect of it as much. Obviously, they're going to have some elements. It's New England, Boston in the middle of, in the beginning of January. It's going to be really cold. Might be raining. Who knows what type of weather it's going to happen. Obviously, a lot of things can change between now and when they play on Sunday night. But to not have them on an early window on an East Coast trip is a massive win for the Chargers.
Yeah, and like it could have easily been the 10 a.m. window. Like they like the star power of this game. Like the Bills are going to have to play in Jacksonville at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which, is the same time zone at least for them because they're in Buffalo. Chargers are having to get their body clock all out of whack if they have to do that. And we saw it against the Giants, right? Saw it against the Titans, saw it against the Dolphins, even saw it early against the Cowboys, at least defensively, obviously. So I think that this is a huge break for the Chargers to be able to play the game at a normal time, a time that they have thrived in all season long. I mean, the only standalone game that they lost was against the Texans, and that was 1:30 on a Saturday. So this is a scenario where they have proven to be really good, and I think that is a huge break for them. Like, as much as a schedule can help them, because the other part of it is you get your full week of allotted rest. There was a chance you could have been playing 1:30 on Saturday again, and now instead of a full 7 days of rest, you're getting 5.5. So I do think that this is giving them the best chance to be fully healthy. I think the big part of this is now, okay, well, hey, hopefully Omarion Hampton was mostly out of precaution. We'll see. Hopefully Jamari Sawyer can come back next week because obviously we saw the Austin Deculus experience again this week. But I think the most important thing is just the Chargers being here right now with Jim Harbaugh, who I do believe is going to have this team prepared on Sunday night when they play the Patriots, and this Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert tandem to have another chance at getting Herbert his first playoff win.
Yeah, that's the focus, right? The season starts now. Like, everything that happened in the regular season doesn't matter. All of that is all out the window. They punched their ticket, and now it's a brand new season. They have a new opportunity to do something that this organization has never done in its history. Win a Super Bowl, and to also get the quarterback who's hopefully going to be here for the next 15 years, his first playoff win of many with this coach in Jim Harbaugh, who has brought back that expectation of winning for the Chargers. That standard of winning, that this is going to be a team that's going to be there at the end every single year. Expect it, count on it. This is where you start to legitimize what you want to be, which is a perennial playoff team and a championship team. Getting Justin Herbert his first playoff win is of paramount importance, and I know every single player and coach in that building is all transfixed on making sure that gets done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think they will show up for it, right? And the Patriots are a good team, so you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to pull off the win. You're going to have to beat a really good team to do it. And the thing is if you beat the Patriots, then you get the Broncos. And I think you feel really good about your chances against the Broncos. Bo Nix has never beaten Justin Herbert. Still, Broncos fans, if you're listening, if you were a little confused about that after the game, and if the Chargers had played Justin Herbert today, I think they would have went 6-0 in the AFC West. But I do think that it's like, hey, you go out and win this, you're a Broncos win away from an AFC championship game. The path is there. Like, I don't think that's the worst way things could have lied for this team. Like, I truly don't. Like, I think that's a pretty favorable outcome considering what their chances were and what the outlook was going into this weekend, right? With so much up in the air. I don't think this is bad, right? And also, you're not playing the Broncos and the Texans and then the Broncos again in 3 straight weeks, which is just a brutal stretch to put your offense through, physically. Like, that's just three really, really tough physical games late in December and early January to have to deal with. So I think the Chargers do absolutely have a chance this week. And if they can win this one, they absolutely have a chance to get within 1 game of the Super Bowl. And that you don't get unless you're getting back-to-back playoff, berths from this team, getting to 11 wins and not even needing to play Justin Herbert in week 18, even though you had to blow out the Raiders in week 18 last week just to get to those 11 wins. And this year you had a much tougher schedule and you were without 2 of your top 3 to 4 offensive players so far this year. So a lot to feel good about. The standard is set. They are in the playoffs again. And the way Justin Herbert gets a playoff win is by getting the chance to play a playoff game every year, because once that sample size balances out, I promise you Justin Herbert's playoff performances in the past could be an afterthought if they can start to get things going over these next few years. But a lot to be excited about. It's the playoffs now. Be back here tomorrow because it is Buy or Sell Tuesday, getting into a playoff version of the biggest Chargers storylines and overreactions. So hit us up at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. And make sure to never miss the show by subscribing or following for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts from. That's a big one, David. We want to hear from you guys.
Calling playoffs week, baby.
323-524-7924 to get your buy or sell for the Chargers in tomorrow and keep it around 30 seconds. We appreciate it. But hey, it's a playoff week. We're still talking about games being played in the middle of January this upcoming week, and I'm super excited about it. We'll be back with you tomorrow as the only daily Chargers podcast out there as part of the #1 sports podcast network. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.